Well, good evening again. This is Mike Siver and Earnest Spencer on the No Fences show. We were talking about repairing broken adults. This is part number 5. And tonight we're going to talk a little bit about why I behave the way I do. The first part of this chapter, in the chapter 1 in the book, was written a lot about my life and it helped me a lot understand why I behave the way I do. And Ernest, anytime you feel like jumping in here, you just jump in, because we need this to let people know that we're serious about what we're doing here.
Correct.
In my early days of school, when we were moving around, and our family back in the 50s and 60s, I guess, was not any different than anybody else's. My mom was going through some serious issues with my dad, and they were separating and getting together and separating and getting together. And in the meantime, when she separated from him, that she would leave and we'd go somewhere. We'd go to another town, another city, another state.
Right.
And the one thing in my childhood that sticks out at me the most was, I forget what grade I was in, the 4th grade or something like that, really young.
Mm-hmm.
I said here I was about 11 years old.
Right.
Our parents were having a little trouble, and I would just go ahead and read this for a little while.
Go ahead.
It says here,
Go ahead.
I believe our parents were having some trouble and thought a fresh start might help. So they moved us from our lifelong home in the state of Michigan to a small town in Iowa near my uncle and his family. As we were 5 children, as far as we knew, 5 children knew things were fine, and we were trying to adjust to the new town and our new school. After having been there a short time, a few months, I started to settle in. One day at school, when I went out with other children to recess, assuming I would play for a while and return to my desk, to my surprise, when I got outside, I noticed my mother parked alongside the playground, and I heard her call my name. When I walked over to the car, all she said was, "Get in." As always, I did as I was told at that time. I wish I could say I really did do all that stuff every time she told me, but that one, I didn't know what was going on. So I got in. And when the door was closed, she drove off with a carload of children, all silently wondering, and we were all wondering something different. When I thought about it, the first few minutes was that what I thought about and impacted me the most the rest of my life, and to this day I have an image of it, was what would my friends think when they came back from recess and I wasn't there. Nobody knew. I don't even think the teacher, they may have known, that my mom may have called the school,
Right.
but I don't know. She never said she did.
Right.
So we were in the car, gone. The kids would go back into the classroom, and I can always visualize my desk, all the stuff that was in my desk, the books under my desk, sitting there empty.
Okay.
That's a strong, vivid memory in my mind. So that's what I remember. Returned to the classroom after recess and would look over my desk, and now empty. And would they wonder where was I and if I was okay? I don't remember anything else from that day, but I know we didn't stop driving till we got back to Michigan. We changed schools 5 times that year.
Okay.
Just in 1 year, from the starting of school to from August to May, 5 different schools, and 2 different states. Now, that started another process in me, that I was always the new kid on the block. So when we got to a new school, and this went all through my school, we got to a new school, I would either be behind or ahead, depending on what school we came from.
Right.
But normally I was behind. The teacher would give me slack because I was a new kid.
Right.
And we just came from an uprooted family and blah, 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 you know, the whole sob story.
Yeah.
Got into the new school, got given a lot of slack so I could continue in the school. And as soon as it got tough, as soon as I was there long enough where I had to start doing the homework, we moved again. So I was always the new kid on the block.
Right.
And it's funny that years later, I mean, I was in my 30s or 40s, I forget when, a friend of mine told me that we've been working together for a long time. He said, you know, 4 years is your limit. After 4 years, you got to go.
Okay.
And I did. And I didn't stop and think about it until he said that.
Right.
Almost every job I had, 3 to 4 years, I would stick it out, and then I was gone.
Okay.
And I quit great jobs. I mean, wonderful jobs. And there was no reason to quit.
Right, right.
So I'd move on and move on and move on and kept being the new kid on the block all the time. And I think why I behaved the way I do or did then, because now I'm done moving.
Right.
We've been where we're at now for 6 years, going on 7, and I ain't moving. I'm happy. But why I kept moving and moving and changing jobs all the time was because I wanted to be the new kid on the block.
Mm-hmm.
I think that stems back from what we did as children.
Okay, I did very similar things. We didn't move from state to state, but I went through the single mother with 3 kids. She had 4 later. And my mother and father fought all the time. We would move, but we would never move any further than a half a mile from my grandmother's house.
Okay.
So it was like the central area. You know, we talked about where the stadium is.
Mm-hmm.
We moved over 3 blocks over on Lake Street. Then we moved on the same block down the street. We moved 4 blocks the other way. And my dad would always try and make up with my mother as he thought, and then start doing the same crap all over again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and we'd end up, but I didn't transfer schools a lot because my grandmother always used her address as, you know, so we stayed. I moved to 3 different schools because in Chicago they got too full, and you have to go to another new school that they built. So I went to Sudadet and Dodge, which were all within a mile and a half. In 4 years, I went to 3 different schools.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but a lot of the kids would go with me because they were in the area or the 2 block or 3 block area that was affected.
Right.
But I know about the moving, and then you seem to lose stuff when you move.
Yeah.
You lose toys, you lose clothes, you lose stuff. And, you know, I went through that, so I understand.
Well, because of, as you mentioned, because of the leaving stuff behind.
Mm-hmm.
And we always did that. And there's a lot of, I mean, my sisters and I talk, because now there's 7 of us instead of 5. There was 2 more kids came along later.
Mm-hmm.
But when my sisters and I talk about different things in our life that happened, she'll say, well, do you remember doing that? I say, no, I don't remember that at all. Mm-hmm. Well, you don't remember that?
Right.
I said, no, I don't remember that. All 7 of us have different memories of the same event.
Right.
And some of us have switched off and just let it go because it was either too traumatic at the time or it was something we didn't want to remember. I'm not sure why, but there's a lot of individuals of us, of the family, that really look at the same situation 180 out.
Right.
Wow, and it's scary.
Yeah.
But you were talking about hoarding too, not hoarding, I was talking about hoarding. I'm going to get to that in a second.
Okay.
Because of leaving stuff behind all the time. Because when we left Iowa to come back to Michigan, we had whatever she put in the car.
Right.
We didn't have a choice of saying, well, I want to keep this, or I want to keep that, I want to keep that. And I've got stuff today that I have drug around for a year that I don't even know what I've got. But am I going to let it go?
Nope.
Ooh.
I have my oldest daughter, she's 44 years old. I have her first tooth. The bracelet, I heard too, but I heard small stuff that I could keep in my top drawer. I have my son's bracelet, say baby boy, from the hospital. And I have their baby spoons. I don't know if I still have them. I had each one of those baby spoons, but they came from my mother. My mother had the baby spoon she fed me out of. She gave it to me to feed my children. So it's, you know, I'm like you. You lose stuff, so you want to hold on to things you think you could keep.
But those things I think I would hang on to as well, because those things you're never going to replace.
Right, right.
And they have their childhood baby memories, and I've got a couple of those too. But I would presume that eventually the kids will get their own.
Oh, right.
And they'll have that to hand on down or whatever. But I carry around junk. I
Okay.
mean, I carry around junk, and I won't let it go. And my wife is just now getting to me to, well, do you need that? Can you hang on to that, or can you let go of that? But we don't, as adults, very often get to address why we behave the way we do. Mm-hmm. Now, you only get to that point, I think, when something really traumatic happens, and you either go see a psychiatrist, or you may have a good friend that you can confide in. But most of us just deal with it inside,
Right, we do.
internally. We carry, and men and women alike. But I wrote these books to have us address our why do we behave the way we do? Why did I do that? It's the name of this book.
Mm-hmm.
And the chapter 1 is, why do I behave the way I do?
Right.
And we're going to go through a lot of different stuff. But that was one of the most traumatic moments and memories of my life,
Okay.
is when we got to that. And we talked about the sympathetic teachers, and they were trying to help.
Mm-hmm.
They were all trying to help and be nice to me, because, poor Mike, da-da-da. And I'm sure I gave a sob story a mile long about what happened, let them know. And I just never paid attention anyway. I think, self-diagnosing, I think I was ADHD as a kid, but it was so far back, nobody diagnosed that. They just
Right.
gave you a smack on the wrist with a ruler
Right.
to wake you up. I got plenty of those.
Me too.
But we don't address our own personal issues too many times, and I think we should. It doesn't hurt if we have somebody help us reflect on why we did what we did. I think from listening to my sisters, they're much better at personal conversation than what men are.
Mm-hmm.
My brothers and I don't talk a lot about our
Right.
growing up and all this kind of stuff. Whereas I think the girls, they get more intimate with each other talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they address a lot of those issues that men don't address,
I agree.
like leaving and how it hurt, but they talk about it. They talk,
Women
whereas
talk.
guys don't talk.
We fix things. Women talk. Men fix things.
Yeah, I haven't fixed much yet,
Neither.
but we always want to try and fix our stuff.
But it's something in another program that I'm involved in. It says attraction rather than promotion, where you have to take a look at yourself. And
Right.
you know which program I'm talking about. And there's a step 4
Yeah,
and a step 5 that make you really take a look at your inner self and things you did and why you did them. And I'm just starting to look at stuff that I did in my 30s and 40s. I had custody of my children, and my dad was never around, so what I did to make up for it was say that I'm never going to leave my children. I'm going to be this
Right.
perfect dad, which no
Right.
one can be a perfect dad. So there are effects that I feel, just like you have the effects you feel.
now we've got about a minute and a half left in this show, then we're gonna come back again, and then we're gonna talk about things on how we can fix these things.
Okay.
'Cause it's easy for us to sit here
And give you the problem.
and give all the problems. But we're gonna have to look at how can we fix these things? How can we address them and make our lives and those of our families better, more peaceful, and have a home where I talk about so many times, when your children think of love and care and peace, that they think of their parents.
Right.
My parents were that. I don't know how many kids you ask today, who do you think of when you think of love and caring and ethics and integrity? Who do you think of? I don't know if a whole lot of kids would say their parents.
No. I know a few, but not many.
Yeah, I know some that would as well. But we have to come back with some ways to solve these problems.
Well, the next show, I want to start off with something that you made me think of, and we could do it at the next show, and it's exactly what you were talking about.
Okay?
Okay, exactly what you were talking about.
Well, we will come back on the next show about that. In the meantime, we're gonna carry on with this series for the next, I don't know how many months until we get this all taken care of. Look forward to seeing you people. Please come on the show. Give us a call, email us.